No, knives! My greatest fear is small knives! Oh, Mother Hubbard! Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Player Display. I got a really special one for you today. So it's very rare when we get to look at the really high quality Supermax figures on this channel, including any and all entries from the Hot Toys line. But in this case, we actually have one. This is the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Spider-Man as portrayed by Andrew Garfield, one of my favorite actors perhaps of all friggin' time. Also, he's my favorite Spider-Man of all time, as I've already explained in that Spider-Man 3-pack from Hasbro, and this is him more specifically as he was depicted in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, not necessarily No Way Home. That's important to talk about because this also comes with an unmasked head sculpt. Well, Hot Toys has released a figure of this particular depiction of Spider-Man before, but that was way back when TASM 2 was actually released, and the differences between that figure and this one are quite many. The main thing being that I think the original one had more accessories. I think the biggest talking point there is that it had the sweater and the hat and the scarf and everything from when he had a horrible cold and he was not Spider-Man, but he was Spider-Man! But in this case, we don't actually have that outfit, but that's okay. The trade-off is the details are a lot sharper, the colors are a lot more crisp, and the accessories he does come with are nothing to scream at. And in fact, he has the unmasked head sculpt, as I said before, and we haven't seen that with a Spider-Man figure yet, at least for Andrew Garfield. So anyways, let's go ahead and look at the box, which is absolutely beautiful. It's, well, amazing, like everything Spider-Man, but it's very holographic. It has some of that electro vibe going on through it. You have some of the blue lightning going around Spider-Man as he's web-slinging through New York, looking absolutely awesome. Same motif continuing onto this side. We got the Amazing Spider-Man once again, though it drops a 2, interestingly enough. Onto this side, not quite as fancy, but we get a little bit of webbing going on. Off to the back, a whole Star Wars scroll of text that I don't think anyone really cares about, so we're going to skip the warning labels for today because there is so much more to discuss on the inside, right? Why waste anyone's time? Off to the top, we got the Amazing Spider-Man once again. On the bottom, Amazing Spider-Man 2. So interesting how they kind of got 2 different logos for this figure. But anyways, it's kind of like a shoebox, like many a 1/6 scale figure. But now, while I have opened this figure before, just so I can get my hands on him and then sort of generate an opinion before we actually reviewed the figure, I wanted to put him back in as he was displayed originally, so it would be like a first unboxing experience for you as well. But here he is when he is inside the box and the sleeve is removed. We have the figure here encased in a little bit of black velvet to keep him safe. We have the unmasked mask. We have the unmasked head sculpt. We have the actual main head sculpt, a whole bunch of webs, and a whole bunch of hands. So anyways, without further ado, let's see what's contained inside. Before we go ahead and have a look at the action figure himself, let's start off by looking at that dynamic action figure stand, which I've never actually had before. So over here we have an arbiter wire inside the main actual stand, which is totally bendable. You can put it in any position you like, get it a little bit twisty, a little zigzaggy. So if you want him suspended in the air doing a Spidey jump, you can totally do that. So let's go ahead and pour that right in. Not much of a problem. Just be sure it's nice and flush. There we go. And then next up we have the second component here being this little bit of a clamp. And you can notice here it even has a little bit of foam on the inside of the crab claw there and a little bit on this back support piece to keep him nice and safe and to not rile up any of the beautiful web details that he has. So slip that on top. There's actually a little bit of a cap that goes on top of the wire right there, but I put that back inside the box, unfortunately, but just pretend it's there for now. It doesn't really help to support the figure at all. It's kind of just an aesthetic thing. But I mean, once you get the figure on there, are you really going to be looking at the back of the stand? So that's not a problem at all, but you can ratchet the stand up or down as you please. It doesn't really ratchet, it kind of just slides and then stays wherever you need it to go. And then let's go ahead and get our Spider-Man inside. So just undo the clip, take Andrew Garfield, put him right in, and there we go. Looking absolutely, well, amazing. I'm going to try and put a limit on how many times I say amazing throughout this video. So anyhow, let's go ahead and start with his web head and then work our way from head to toe. This is very likely the most beautiful action figure I have ever owned. I mean, it's Hot Toys, you know them. They're basically the Ferrari of the action figure world, as I like to call them. But anyways, we start up here at the head sculpt, and it looks absolutely screen accurate. I think the best feature of this entire figure is easily the lenses. I really love how it looks like there are multiple components to it. It doesn't feel like one single painted over piece. It seems like it is made out of several layers to it to give it a little bit more depth, almost like you can sense that there is a head inside of this egg that is Andrew Garfield's mask, pretty much. But getting in a little bit closer, and we are going to zoom way in so we can totally appreciate the various details here. You can almost make out like a honeycomb design that we have in the lenses right there. You can even make out a very good reflection, so it's nice and shiny. But you can also see that same honeycomb design panning over to the red, and that looks absolutely beautiful. You can see it right there. Really good fabric, nice and flexy. Doesn't feel like it's going to rip or anything. And as for the webs, I don't feel like they're going to break or anything like that. I mean, I'm not going to test it right now, but that was one thing that I noticed across the previous releases of this figure is over time, they tended to degrade a little bit. So hopefully that won't be the same case here. There were several times in the past where I did try and pursue the original version. Obviously, in hindsight, I'm glad that it didn't work out at the end of the day, but there were a few instances where I did find other figures of this from when the movie was released, and the webs were a little bit sporadic. Some were sometimes just peeling off and whatever, but in this case, they seem sturdy for the time being. Hopefully, they stay that way forever and for all time, but that's just a hope. But we'll see how it goes. Time will tell. Sorry, we don't want to talk about the concept of time in front of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, right? Down to the torso, we have the extended Spidey logo, which I personally really have come to love over the years. We have the longer legs going down to the abs, and I just think that really helps to fill in the suit a little bit more. And then you also can make out the shininess of the webs. You can see as they turn it in the light, as we go into a little bit of a 360, you can see the light changing across the webs as we go. You can also see the red logo on the back as well, also with a blue. So we'll go ahead and push in once again. It's got its own unique texture from the red cloth, which is absolutely beautiful. I really have no idea how they put things like this together. They are absolutely beautiful to look at. I think this is maybe only my second or third Hot Toys figure. I know we reviewed the King Shark. I'm not sure if I have any more. I definitely have a lot more figures from Sideshow than I do from Hot Toys. Not totally sure what the difference is, but all of them do a very good job, and this is very exemplary of that. Moving down to the arms, you can see that they're both identical, of course, but they also have the web shooters. And one thing that I really like about these is, first of all, of course, they're very well painted, very accurate. They got the silver bits. They got a little bit of the black accents as well, but also depending on what pose you want him in, you can rotate the sleeve a little bit so you can have it aligned with whatever hand that you are using. In this case, he comes with the default fisted hands, and they do match pretty well with the rest of the clothing. Of course, the hands aren't cloth, but still, there is a little bit of light sculpt work in there to help it blend in just a little bit. And also the webs continue with that little bit of a metallic sheen. So that looks absolutely excellent. Really love what they're doing there. Down to the legs, it's pretty much the same design as we pretty much expect with all Spider-Man figures. We have the blue, then it comes down to the red feet, and then also more webs. And if we go ahead and bend this leg up, we can actually see the bottom of the shoes and get a little bit of sculpt work down there. Not a whole ton, but still pretty neat. Not as crazy as the TASM 1 design, but still pretty cool. Must be pretty cozy in this suit, you know, aside from the more tighter areas, right? Let's move on and look at all his various accessories, starting off with 5 pairs of hands and one unique hand over there. So we have 2 thwips, we have 2 opens, we have 2 crawl, we have 2 grips, 2 pointy fingers. So this is kind of a legacy figure if you want to reenact the classic pointing Spider-Man moment. And then we also have a little bit of a peace hand over there. So that's kind of cool. I guess that's sort of an homage to the Insomniac Spider-Man games where he's taking a selfie with the phone or something like that. So I don't know why they threw that in, but it's still a nice little thing to have. Then down here, we have a whole bunch of webbing accessories. I can't imagine myself ever using all of them, but there are a ton. So we have 2 longer accessories here. We have one that has almost this 90-degree angle, so we could take this one And look at this closely. They're all made of the same material with the same nice texture work, but it's this very nice translucent plastic white. I think it looks absolutely excellent. So I assume for this one here, he sort of grips it right there, and that kind of allows him to do a little bit of that swinging action, looking very good. We also have two shorter effects over here, this time a little bit more stubby on the end, like it's just shooting out and is about to make quite the impact on one of his foes. They also have this web sprout out effect, which I imagine you can attach to the end of most of the webs that we just looked at. This looks absolutely phenomenal. I wish they included maybe another variant of this or maybe two of these, but it's so nice that we get at least one. And the last web accessory we have, I'm not totally sure what this is meant to represent, but it looks like this is gripped in between one of the gripping hands. Let's go ahead and test that out. I think you take these two pegs and put them in either side, and then yeah, something like that. So it looks like he's holding sort of like a bundle of his webs, and he's sort of like trying to yank someone in or yank over a hubcap or something like that, or a manhole would be more accurate, I suppose. But yeah, that's a really neat little option as well. Next thing we have is an unmasked mask, which is a weird thing to say, but this is more to accompany him when he is unmasked, and then he can hold this in one of his hands. I can't imagine you can get this over the unmasked head sculpt. Actually, I would not recommend that. I feel like that's a fantastic way to destroy the details, but it is pretty much the exact same thing as the mask that is already on the masked head portrait, but it looks absolutely phenomenal. Same lenses, same webs, same red fabric with the pattern on it. Looking very solid. Over here we have two interchangeable parts for the thwipping hands. This is for when the webs are actually coming out from the web shooter, so we will go ahead and test that out as well. We also have two extra pegs here in case one of the wrist pegs breaks. They have a little bit of a substitute. Identical, so if one breaks, then you could use either of the two, it won't matter which. And the last thing we have here is the best head sculpt that I own in my collection. It's almost uncanny how accurate this is to 2012, 2014 Andrew Garfield. I think this looks absolutely spot on. It looks so beautiful. It's amazing. But there you go, saying amazing again, but it's remarkable how well accurate this figure is to how he looked back then about 10 years ago. And 10 years have already passed, and he's not an older guy necessarily, but years have transpired and he looks a little bit different now. But the fact that they're able to do an accurate depiction of how you looked back then is really special, and this just makes me really happy. Like, honestly, I'm having trouble deciding whether I want to display him with the mask on or with the mask off, because this one is such a good counterpart to go with this figure. I'm really glad they did this. It looks absolutely beautiful and lifelike. And again, it's the first Hot Toys head sculpt that I've had, which is a human likeness, and they absolutely nailed it. It looks totally sweet, really good. Now let's take our time to just simply take one of the thwipping hands and equip a web, just do the whole sham wow, and see how it goes. So here we have the thwipping hand, I believe, oh, well, let's first of all get the right hand corresponding to the left. Here we are, and it seems like there's a panel here which you can remove, and then you can put in the web shooting effect. Not sure what the sweet spot is here. Yeah, there it comes. So you just get it a little bit around the edges, and then eventually it kind of ports right out. There you go. So that way you have that non-shooting portion right there. Now let's go ahead and figure out which one here is appropriate. Oh, you can actually make out over here, you have those little indents for the fingers along the top, so that should help you to match them up. So this is the wrong one, but this should be the right one right there. And then we plug that in. There we go. So let's go ahead and remove this fisted hand, like so. Very easy. I don't feel like the peg is going to break or anything, which is very good. Let's port in this hand over here, rotate the web shooter so it's a little bit aligned, bend it up a little bit. And there we are, so that looks very nice. Now let's go ahead and choose a web effect. For the sake of this camera angle, I'll go with the shorter one. So we got a little bit of a peg, got a hole. Should be able to just slot that right in. It slides in beautifully. Didn't feel like it was getting stuck or it was too tight or anything. Definitely not too loose. It's not knocking out or anything like that. It looks great. So let's go ahead and pan out a little bit. There we are, just a little tiny web shoe, nothing too special yet. He's not too posed up yet, but anyhow, speaking of all that, now that we know how the figure functions, let's go ahead and get him in his unmasked look really quick. Fortunately, replacing his head is very easy. There's no ball pecks to worry about. Everything basically parts right here at the bottom of the neck. So all you have to do is just give it a little bit of a jimmy, and then you sort of see we have almost this rectangle peg right there. Then we can go ahead and put that head aside, get the unmasked head, pop that right on, and it's pretty much seamless. That looks absolutely beautiful. So let's go ahead and pan back out a little bit, actually a little bit more, so we can see this hand over here. I've replaced the fisted hand with a more relaxed hand, and we can get the unmasked mask over here. And let's see what the best way to do this is. I guess you could put it in between the fingers. No, it's not overcomplicated. We could just have the hand turned up a little bit, and then he's got the mask right in there. I'm sure if you looked at the product shots, you could get a better way of doing it. Actually, that's pretty much the way to do it. Sort of coil it up a little bit like a taquito, and then he holds it pretty good. Put it up a little bit, and there we go. Like he's about to shoot someone's face so they don't see his secret identity. I'm going to do my very best to show off every piece of articulation on this figure, which is quite difficult to do because, of course, everything is covered up in clothing. One thing I forgot to mention is this is not a Fison body. It's all made of plastic. For those of you who don't know what Fison is, it's pretty much a body used for 1/6 scale figures where basically it's a rubberized outside and a metal skeleton inside, which are really nice. I only own one other of those in the Harley Quinn. But anyways, over here, the articulation is pretty cool. I actually haven't experimented with every point of it yet, but as for the head, we've got, it's going to be a little tricky because of where the head separates, but let's go ahead and pop the head off. We have a little bit of tilt. See, the joints are still pretty new, but they do have tilt. They got some good forward, good back, also has all the swivel you need. Let's go ahead and put that back on there, right? Got a little bit of ab crunch, perhaps. Yeah, you can hear everything very heavily ratcheting as I do it. Bring it on back. Oh, there goes the head again. All right, we'll just put that aside. There is also a swivel going on somewhere in here. I'm not totally sure where. As for the arms, they stretch out to pretty much almost all the way up. Obviously, you do not want to do a 360 with a figure like this because of the clothing. There should be a bicep swivel. Yes, there you are. As for elbows, they are double jointed. They go past 90, but they don't go all the way in, which is totally fine. As for the wrists, they are on that almost McFarlane looking ball joint, so they can go in, out, up, down, whatever it is you want. And they got their swivel. As for the legs, they kick that far up, that far back. Very good. I could be missing a lot of the range as we go, by the way, so I apologize for that. I'm just trying to be safe here. As for the legs, they are double jointed up to there. And then as for the ankles, we have a swivel in there. Do be careful with the feet. I found that once in a while they can pop out, so it's not a big deal. You just gotta pop them back in. But they have that much back. Oh, see, I just did it, but you heard that click, popped right back in. That much forward. Then you also got your rocker, as every Spider-Man should have. As every action figure should have, really. So let's go ahead and put the masked head back on. And then there we are. Oh, and the articulation for this head, I imagine, is pretty much the same. Yeah, you got your tilt, you got your forward, got your back, and then you got your swivel. But of course, the difference is the mask is seamless between the neck and the head. So, in terms of the cloth anyway. So, yeah, this figure is absolutely awesome. The figure of my dreams, really. Now, I actually have no other 1/6 scale Marvel figures in my collection, but still it's worth doing a size comparison with other figures that you've looked at in the past. Over here we have King Shark as he appeared in the Suicide Squad. Then we also have the DC Direct Rorschach from The Watchmen. Then we also have Tiger Toys Hellflame Killer, better known as Cronin from the Hellboy movie from Guillermo del Toro. But then over here, of course, we gotta compare every figure with Star Wars The Black Series. Mecha-Muck!
The Spider-Man on this channel haven't been too nice to me, so I'm not too thrilled about the new guy. Yeah, he's right behind me, isn't he? Ow!
Now here we are at the end of this review where I attempted to get him into a pretty cool pose. I don't know, he could also be dancing, I'm really not too sure. But I'm not the greatest poser ever, but yeah, it's all in there. If you really want him to doing some slick Spider-Man jumping around and parkour or whatever it is you want, you could definitely get there. And especially it helps that we have the bendy figure stand right there, which I've never had before, and it does a really good job supporting his weight. You can see the full weight is on the stand right there. And a really nice thing that you can do is you can also swivel this portion of the stand right here, so you can actually counterbalance him with the rest of the stand. Like if you were back here, he'd tend to tilt back a little bit, but to balance him out, it's got to swivel him so he's just over the base itself, and then you can get him standing up just fine. So yeah, overall, well, not overall, this entire figure is absolutely fantastic. I love pretty much every aspect of it. I mean, yes, it's a dream figure of mine. I've always wanted a 1/6 scale, proper Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Again, he's my favorite Spider-Man, and this one absolutely does him justice. I imagine if you're one of those types who is solely a Hot Toys collector and you want to get the other two, being Tobey Maguire and of course Tom Holland, then yeah, this would be a perfect Peter 3 for your shelf. Looks very good whether you are an Amazing Spider-Man 2 fan or a fan of the No Way Home movie. No matter what side of the coin you're on, this figure is absolutely spectacular. Very cool. Can't wait to pose him up a little bit more on my own time. A lot of fun accessories to boot. Then, of course, you have that unmasked head sculpt just to make things a little bit sweeter. Everything here is really, really friggin' cool. So, highly recommend him if you can find him. Pretty much the day he dropped, I ordered him, then he got sold out after that. But then again, that was just pre-ordered, so he might come back one day. I hope he does, because people deserve to have this figure in their hands. Very great experience. Highly recommend him. So, anyhow, that's pretty much all. So, if you enjoyed this review, then please, as per usual, be sure to
Like,
comment,
and subscribe.
or suffer the little children.
Once again, the Patreon is live in the description if you want to support the channel and guarantee at least one video per week, and most likely more than that. I mean, that's what we're already doing this week, right? But just to support the channel, be sure you can get the stuff that you want to see, then do indeed go ahead and check out the Pod Patreon. Very cheap, only $10 a month if you're in the right financial place to do so. If not, then that's okay. It's totally cool to just enjoy the ride, but anyhow, I really hope to be reviewing more figures like this in the future. Again, not easy for me to get, like a once a year type of thing. Actually, wasn't even expecting to get him now. The pre-orders were slated to be released in December, and then all of a sudden he came around here in September. So I'm like, oh, crap, wallet, do a backflip, do something. And fortunately, I was able to pull through, and here we are with this really awesome Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, looking absolutely amazing. Fine, I'll say it one more time. Anyhow, that's about it, so I hope you enjoyed this review, hope you enjoy the rest of the content on this channel. Rock on, and I will see you all later. If you haven't seen Tick Tick Boom, watch it, goddammit, because this is only one of his amazing roles.